In April 2025, a quiet distress signal was picked up by a private satellite company off the coast of Alaska. The signal didn't match any modern communication protocols. It was old, very old. At first, the engineers thought it was just interference, maybe from an abandoned submarine cable. But when they triangulated the source, they found something strange. The signal was coming from a spot in the ocean where no land was supposed to exist. That spot was marked Area X-91 on classified military maps, off-limits, uncharted, and erased from all public records. But in old naval archives, the place had a name, Harp Island. It had vanished from maps in 1965 after a natural disaster was blamed for sinking it. But what no one outside the government knew was that Harp Island was never destroyed. It was hidden. And now, it was back. NASA confirmed it 2 days later. A landmass the size of Manhattan had re-emerged in the North Pacific Ocean. It wasn't volcanic activity. It wasn't rising sea levels. The island had literally returned, complete with trees, hills, and buildings half swallowed by time. The U.S. government quickly sealed off the region. They told the public it was a geological anomaly under investigation. But that was a lie. Behind the scenes, they sent in a small elite team of scientists and soldiers to investigate what had come back, and why. Dr. Lena Morse, a geophysicist with clearance to several black-budget projects, was chosen to lead the team. She had read the original files, what little had survived. The last known transmission from Harp Island in 1965 had only 4 words, "They are still here." When Lena and her team landed on the island, everything was silent. There were no signs of life. No birds. No wind. No sound at all, as if the air itself was holding its breath. The trees were overgrown but unnatural in shape, twisted upward like they were reaching for something, their bark slick and blackened like obsidian. The team found the remains of an old research base, rusted and half-covered in vines. Inside were broken monitors, moldy papers, and walls covered in strange writing, not in any known human language. But the strangest thing was the calendar hanging on the wall. It read, October 11th, 1965. The pages hadn't aged. They found beds still made. Coffee mugs on desks. One lab even had a half-eaten sandwich on the table, completely preserved, like time had frozen. Lena checked her instruments. They were malfunctioning. Compasses spun wildly. Radios picked up only static. GPS didn't work. Something was interfering with the very fabric of time and space. Then they found the door. Deep inside the base was a steel vault, sealed tight, with a warning painted in faded red, "Do not open. Alien entity inside." They opened it. Inside the room was a cylindrical pod, 7 feet tall, covered in frost. Floating inside was a creature. Humanoid, but not human. Its skin was pale gray, thin like paper, and its eyes were enormous and black. Wires ran from the pod into the walls, as if the base had been built around it, not to contain it, but to study it. Lena was stunned. There had always been rumors in classified circles about alien contact. But this was proof. And yet, it wasn't the biggest shock. The pod was empty. The creature was gone. Security cameras from 1965 were still intact. By some miracle, the footage was recoverable. What they saw chilled them. The creature had awakened the moment the island vanished 60 years ago. It stepped out of the pod, touched the walls, and everything around it began to glow. Scientists in hazmat suits had tried to stop it, but it only looked at them. They dropped dead instantly. Then, the footage was cut to static. They weren't dealing with an ordinary alien. This being had abilities that bent reality. Telekinesis, mind control, and possibly even the power to manipulate time itself. Worse still, it might still be on the island. That night, Lena's team started disappearing. One soldier, Ramirez, went to patrol the perimeter and never returned. They found his radio lying on the beach, still transmitting, but his voice was on the other end, whispering things in reverse. Another, Dr. Chun, began speaking in a language no one could recognize. She clawed at her own face until they sedated her. Lena began to piece it together. Harp Island had been a test site. In the 1960s, the U.S. military had discovered something beneath the ocean floor, an object they couldn't explain. It was emitting a strange frequency that caused hallucinations and time distortion. They built the base to study it. That object was the aliens' ship. But they didn't realize the ship wasn't just a vehicle, it was alive. And when they woke it, it retaliated. It trapped the island, and everything on it, outside of normal time. 60 years passed in the outside world, but on the island, it had only been minutes. The alien had used the ship to fold space and hide Harp in a pocket dimension. Now it had returned, and so had the being. Lena theorized that the reappearance wasn't accidental. The creature had allowed it to return, maybe because it was ready. Maybe because it was no longer alone. On the third day, they found the tunnels. Deep under the island, a network of caverns stretched for miles. Inside were symbols burned into the stone, pulsating with light. In the center of one chamber was another pod, this one open and empty. Then another. And another. 17 in total. Whatever the government had uncovered in 1965 wasn't a single entity. It was a prison. And now, it was empty. Lena tried to get a message out. Their satellite phone finally picked up a signal. But when she called for extraction, a voice responded, not from the military, but something else. It said, "Do not attempt to leave. Protocol Omega is in effect." She knew what that meant. Total containment. They were being abandoned. Moments later, Lena saw the black helicopters overhead. But instead of rescuing them, they dropped something. It wasn't supplied. It was a bomb. The last thing Lena remembered was a flash of white, then silence. But here's the twist. This wasn't the end. 3 months later, a fisherman in Russia found a strange object washed up on shore. It looked like a metal egg, covered in alien markings. He turned it over to the local police. That night, the police station burned down. No survivors. The object was gone. Then reports began surfacing all over the world. People disappearing near coastlines. Mass animal deaths. Static appearing on emergency broadcast systems, playing the same reversed whisper, "We have returned." To this day, Harp Island is once again gone from maps. But some say, late at night, if you tune an old radio to the right frequency, you can hear them, those whispers in a language we were never meant to understand. And if the story ended here, it might be easier to forget. But it didn't. Because last month, Lena Morse's ID badge was found in Utah, hundreds of miles inland. It was clean, untouched by time. And on the back, someone had scratched one final warning. They're building something. Underground.